friends did here. Thank you, Evan. Hey everybody, this is Laith Marouf from Free Palestine TV, and we are at the Acropolis site in Athens. Before we continue with this report, I ask you to press the subscribe button on whatever social media platform you're watching this on, and to go to our website, freepalestine.video, to donate so we can continue bringing you this content. Today is Oches Day, or No Day, which commemorates the battle between the Greek nationalist fascist and the Italian fascists that wanted to control Greece during World War II. And on the one hand, there's parades, military parades in the downtown area of Athens. There's going to be counter demonstrations. And also we see thousands upon thousands of tourists that are mobbing the site basically here because it is a free day to visit the Acropolis. We tried going in. There was a 2.5-hour waiting period to enter, and it took us at least 45 minutes to get the tickets. So we decided we're not going to be filming here today. We're going to go down to the streets and talk about the anti-fascist battles that Greece had to go through. And so this whole week we'll be traveling around Greece, bringing you stories of resistance of the people of Greece and their relationship with the Palestinian resistance, the historical relationships that existed for a long time. So we're going to carry out this report, and we'll see you down there. So we walked down from the Acropolis site, trying to get to the main streets where there's locations that we're going to be discussing. And behind me is a traditional Ottoman mosque that has been turned into a museum. And with us today is a local anti-imperialist activist, student, Evan Katsonis, and you're part of a group here that does activism around Palestine. It's called
Gather for Gaza.
Gather for Gaza. Evan, what's the story of this mosque?
Sure. This is the Tsistarakis Mosque. It's a historic Turkocratia or Ottoman period of occupation era mosque here, right in like the epicenter of the, I guess you can say, tourism industry of the city. We are also surrounded by a lot of Zionist businesses and establishments, and as well as many Zionist war criminals that are coming here on vacation after the Holocaust that they are committing in Gaza and in the rest of the region.
So we've Rabia almost flipped there. It's dangerous to work for FPTV.
I have
hello.
Hello.
Only photographs are okay inside,
Yes.
No video, please.
Some of the things that we saw inside is the mihrab,
Yes.
where the prayer
Traditional Ottoman painted style.
and a lot of the old tapestry and fashion of the time.
Yes.
And clearly it's been refixed. The whole place, was it turned into a church at any point or no, after the fall of the Ottoman Empire?
No, it was constructed in 1759, and from what I know, with what is called Greek independence, which was really just flag independence in the early 1830s, it would be left defunct and eventually turned into a museum.
Well, we're going to continue this tour.
I think that if it was ever converted into a church, most definitely they would have just destroyed the mihrab and any remaining original fixtures within the interior. But we had also noted that the embroidery has a lot of similarities with Palestinian tajfis. So this is the square of Monastiraki. The bazaar also dates to the Ottoman period. And this is, if you are looking for Zionist or war criminals, this is the place to come and you will see them and find them. And
so this is a big issue right now in Greece.
Yes.
All these Zionists either coming for tourism or purchasing properties.
Yes, the largest foreign share of Greek real estate market now for the last couple of years has been from so-called Israelis. Buying out large parts of the historic center for luxury real estate, hotels, hostels, and the like. It's almost a challenge to find a place that, to find a block that within the center that doesn't have some sort of Zionist real estate that has been developed there.
Okay, we're gonna head out to check some of these locations and we'll carry on. So we have behind us this burger place.
Yeah, this is King David Kosher Burger, so-called Israeli Zionist burger joint that we have recently opened up on the main Drag of Erbush Street in the center of Athens.
And there was some kind of demonstration around it?
Yes, there was one major anti-Zionist direct action operation that took place to disrupt it over the summertime through our anti-Zionist assembly here. They managed to do some graffiti and flyering and to make a disruption of the site. You can see that some of the graffiti is still there. They haven't managed to wipe it off. And after this, the group would go to one of the close metro stations here, and the Delta forces of the pigs here, they would actually. Let me explain what the Delta Force is. It's extremely brutal motorcycle police gangs that are known for being exceptionally brutal with protesters. And they're wearing all black and they're basically militarized.
Yeah.
And so what they did is they actually stopped the metro midway, randomly were pulling people off of the train, beating people. They fractured somebody's skull. They would make, I think, between 15 and 20 arrests on that day. And most of them would end up being just detentions, but some would, I think, turn into arrests. And one of them would be a close comrade who now has 3 or 4 charges for property damage, disturbing public peace, harming a pig for simply trying to stop him from ripping her off of the train violently. And we see how the ways in which the fascist collaborationist comprador Greek regime here is fully in bed with the Zionist entity in the ways that the pigs are deployed in such a way to brutally clamp down on operations like this.
Obviously, the King David Hotel was blown up by the Zionists in Jerusalem, killing British soldiers and Palestinian locals before the end of the British mandate. And maybe this King David burger will have the same fate as the King David Hotel. Let's hope for that.
Yes, God willing.
So this guy is very proud of his U.S. Army Jeep, and he has the Greek flag. Your red light, by the way, Rabia. We're not gonna eat the King David burger.
You want King David?
I mean, you didn't know that the burger is an Israeli invention, like hummus, like falafel, like tabbouleh, like pizza.
Pretty incredible. They even have the sign, in, like the menu, also in Hebrew, and absolutely no shame whatsoever. I can only imagine how they're exploiting their staff there, also.
Well, clearly they are taking advantage of the economic downturn of Greece, and they are, capitalist to the core, and they love crises to take advantage of. The Greek people right now are at the mercy of the EU.
Yes.
Financially, they've been at the mercy of the EU since the early 2000s, since the collapse of the economy.
We are simply a vassal state on the southeast front line of Fortress Europe and a bastion of that fortress. And it's been developed into a hyper-touristified Disneyland with no sense of care for the local population in any way, while also murdering migrants and refugees coming from the global south simply to find lives of dignity, murdering people on a daily basis. There are massacres taking place in the Mediterranean.
There is now a huge amount of tourists also that are Zionists. Last year, you told me the numbers were how much?
700,000. The year before, close to 700,000. And this year, I expect it's probably a record.
And there is areas that these Zionists are outside Athens also are buying up.
Yes.
Tell us about these locations.
Sure. You have actual kibbutzes that are being formed outside of Thessaloniki in the north. It's the second largest city in the country. You have eco-retreats for IOF soldiers to find rehabilitation for their trauma after genociding, whether in Gaza, in the West Bank, or in Syria, wherever they are continuing their exterminationist project. And it's not only just in real estate, it's the fact that they have, military bases in the country. In Kalamata, in the south of the Peloponnese, you have an Elbit joint Air Force, Israeli Air Force, Greek Air Force base, where they can station their troops with an agreement that was signed in the mid 2010s. That Greek troops can be stationed in Israel and vice versa.
We heard, of course, just earlier today, a news item in the Zionist media in the colony saying that they just signed an agreement with Cyprus to station Israeli air defenses. And I wonder, strategically, what does this mean? Why would they need the air defenses in Cyprus to defend the colony? It just doesn't make sense, except if they are expecting that a wider war would encompass Cyprus and the British, American, Israeli bases that are there, and of course all these colonies right now, the Zionist colonies that are being built in Cyprus, just like here, these closed up, villages that are coming out of nowhere, full of Zionist soldiers and their families.
Yeah, we know that between Greece, Cyprus, and the Zionist entity, there is an imperialist axis of collaboration that is being formed on every level, whether military, economic, commercial, telecommunications, also in energy in the construction proposed for the EastMed pipeline and the laying of other undersea cables. There was one thing that I did want to mention that I think would be very interesting to note is that there were in the mid-2010s also joint helicopter training sessions between IOF and Greek army using Mount Olympus and the hills and mountains of northern Greece to simulate the terrain of South Lebanon.
Yeah, there was all those training that they did. Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Even just before this war.
We were just discussing small, microscopic aspects of the level, the deep, entrenched historical collaboration between the Greek regime and the Zionist entity, really escalating after 1990, and the full de jure recognition of the Zionist entity by this regime, and from actually what was supposed to be a leftist party that was in power under Syriza, which was totally sold out and kissed the ring completely with the EU imperialists. It really expedited actually under a party that you would expect would take a stronger line, at least diplomatically, against the Zionist entity.
And of course, this is in total contradiction to the life and connection between the peoples of Greece and the people of Palestine and the region. Look at this. It's a poster for the Iranian
Sahar Emami.
Sahar Emami, that was the journalist live on air in the Iranian national television during the bombing of the Erna complex in Bahran by the Zionists during the 12-day war.
Yeah, I think either they are simply too stupid and ignorant to understand what it is, or they don't have the guts to pull it down, and we're thankful for the comrades that are going out at night and making these postering operations to make them feel as uncomfortable and as hunted as possible.
Which reminds me, there was an opinion piece in the quote-unquote left newspaper Haaretz in the Zionist colony today or yesterday that was talking about this soldier coming to enjoy his time in Greece and finding all this graffiti and posters that
he can't escape
ruined
his trauma
his day.
and the war, even when he comes to Greece. Because, I mean, this should serve as an example for communities all over the world and their own local anti-Zionist grassroots movements, is that if you keep sustained graffiti and postering operations, even though it is probably the most nonviolent form of direct action, it can actually have some kind of impact on an economic scale, because they cannot find respite if everywhere they look they see a graffiti of Ibrahim al-Nabulsi or Abu Ubaida or Zionists are not welcome or kill all Zionists. If they see this, they understand that the world on a mass popular level is against them.
Well, they don't leave any rest for Palestinians, Lebanese peoples any time for the last 100 years, and therefore it is logical that we should try to also make every day, every moment of their life uncomfortable, so they can maybe get deterred in hopes of having that normalcy of whiteness or Western living standards.
Maximum pressure at all points, at all times, ideally. This is what must be sustained.
Look at what our friends did here. Thank you, Evan. Maccabi Haifa casual firm. Let's see if we can take it off. Yes. Yes, I participated in the graffiti war of Athens. That was a very nice walk. We made it into the edges of Ammonia neighborhood. We're not all the way to the circle. You brought us to this building because there is an important issue here that our viewers need to understand. Tell us the story of this building here.
So right now we are at what we understand to be the site of the former Aristides Hotel. I should emphasize that it's very difficult to figure out where the assassination points for Palestinian resistance leaders are in Athens.
Because there's been many Palestinian
Yes.
warriors that were assassinated in different parts of Athens. But as you're saying, it's very hard to tell. Much of that history has been disappeared of the locations.
It's been erased. It's been erased and deliberately censored and obscured. So we were able to find through comrades in the movement, British archival footage of British Pathé, some reels from the 1973 assassination of Musa Abu Ziyad, who was the Fatah representative to Cyprus. He would be assassinated through a bomb placed in his hotel room while he was away from the room, and it would explode and kill him and injure two innocent civilians in the room next door. This is only one of four major assassination of Palestinian resistance leaders, which people just don't know about, they don't talk about. There's no plaque, there's no recognition, there's no kind of awareness about it. I would even reckon to say that in this interview we're having right now, it's the first time in English language, or maybe in any language, that people are actually going to this spot and having a conversation like this in order to build the kind of recognition for these modern resistance leaders. The three other resistance leaders, two killed in 1983, were Muntar Abu Ghazaleh, who was in Fatah, from Gaza City. He was the leader of the training camps in Maisalan and Tartus in Syria. He would be killed, if I'm not mistaken, from either, I believe it was a Mossad motorcycle hit squad team that would kill him in the city. Also in that year, Mahmoud Maresh. Maybe it's known from some viewers, a very famous image, photograph that was taken with him and Dalal Mughrabi, who was the 19-year-old commando that led 1978 Kamal Adwan operation. She's called the Bride of Haifa. And Mahmoud Maresh would actually be trained in China. He would be on a mission here in Greece, I repeat, in 1983. And he would also be assassinated by Mossad terrorists. And then in 1986, from the DFLP, so Khalid Nazal would be assassinated in his hotel room. He was one of the strategizers of the Malot operation, which was one of the most famous DFLP operations in seizing a school in northern occupied Palestine, which the terrorist Moshe Dayan would storm without acceding to the righteous demands of the resistance and killing everyone in the process, or nearly everyone in the process. And these are the four that we have found. I'm sure that there are others, and like I said, there has been no recognition.
So there's clearly in Greece, there was this presence of Palestinian resistance. We also had kind of, street fights, it seems like, between the Zionists and the Palestinians here with these assassinations. And now we have the presence of the Zionists gentrifying this area, right?
Yes.
And, it's almost like they feel like there's no more threat for them in this country, that they can gentrify it in a, semi-colonization process.
Yes.
This is a pamphlet that you produced about some of this information that you were telling us.
Yes.
It says Greece's collaboration with the Zionist entity.
Yeah, it's this is a co-authored text from my collective, Gather for Gaza. It's accessible through our Instagram in our zine archive, and it's a basic primer on all of the levels of complicity between Greek regime and the Zionist entity: energy, military, telecom, commercial, real estate. And the last section, which was my passion and honor to write and to bring attention to, was on Palestinian resistance leaders martyred by Mossad terrorists in Greece. And you can have their pictures, as well as a poem that has been written in honor of Khaled Nazal here. So I invite anyone to download this and to distribute and to learn more about this very important history.
And they can find it on what platform can they download it from?
So if you go to Kinographiko, Kinografiko, it's the film wing of Gather for Gaza Collective. You can just go to the link in the bio and you will be able to find, just go through the steps and you'll see the link to the zine archive and download.
Perfect. And by the way, you know, you said here, in memory of Khaled Nazal, and Khaled Nazal is related to my mother's family.
Wow.
Because the Nazal and the Kilani family are basically one.
In the late 60s, up until 1985, there was a number of extremely significant hijacking operations that took place in the old Ellinikon airport in Athens. Whether hijacking operations or attacks on the airport against Zionists, including Leila Khaled hijacking operation in the early 70s, and also from the Lebanese resistance in a group that called themselves the Oppressed of the Earth, that would manage to take a hold of TWA Flight 847 and fly it between Beirut, Algiers, after taking it in Athens, and go back and forth until it managed to pressure the imperialist US and the Zionist entity into releasing 700 Shia prisoners of war. It was 1985.
Oh, so yeah, it was just the beginnings of Hezbollah.
Yeah.
But this shows you how important it is, these operations, to exchange prisoners of war.
Yes.
And, you know, puts the operation of October 7th in context of that. The only way that Palestinians or Lebanese prisoners of war were ever freed was through capture of Zionist citizens and or soldiers and exchanging them. It's very important history. All of this, I am 100% sure the audience is going to learn a lot from.
Είχε πάρθει η απόφαση αυτές οι οργανώσεις που κάναν προπαγάνδα για τους Γερμανούς, που ήταν φιλοναζιστικές, να χτυπηθούν.
So we have a new guest with us, Kozmi. You're from the anti-Zionist movement, and we're standing beside this memorial statue. Tell us about the story of this.
First of all, it's my honor to be here.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a place where the biggest operation in Europe happened during World War II at that time, 20th of September in 42. Yulia Biba was one of the main persons that organized it. The bomb that was here was created in her house, and she brought it here with her shopping greenery bag and waited for some hours until they put it in these offices. They were actually Greek Nazi cooperators doing propaganda and like finding people to go to Nazi army. And they managed to kill 30 Greek Nazi people and 40 German Nazi people. And it really gave a lot of morale to resistance fighting at that period.
Την παραμονή ο Σπύρος ο Γαλάτης, η Ιουλία, η Μπίλμπα και εγώ φτιάξαμε τη βόμβα. Αυτή τη φορά δεν εβάλαμε ούτε μία οκά, ούτε δύο οκάδες. Βάλαμε 10 οκάδες δυναμίτιδα. Την ετοιμάσαμε, τη βάλαμε μέσα σε μια σακούλα, βάλαμε από πάνω χόρτα και η Ιουλία η Μπίλμπα ανέλαβε να τη φέρει στην πλατεία Κάνιγκος την άλλη μέρα το πρωί που θα ήταν και το ραντεβού στις 9 η ώρα. Μας έφερε τη βόμβα μέχρι έξω από την είσοδο της οδού Γλάστονος, την επήρα εγώ και ο Γαλάτης, ανεβήκαμε απάνω. Είχαμε μία βέργα από ξύλο, την οποία τοποθετήσαμε διαγωνίως σε μία κορνίζα ψηλά κάτω από τα πόδια τους και εκεί πέρα βάλαμε την βόμβα, ανάψαμε τα 2 φυτίλια και βγήκαμε. 12 παρά 2 λεπτά, ένα σύννεφο καπνού που τύλιξε όλο το κτίριο και μετά ήρθε ο ήχος της βόμβας.
What happened to her?
She was tortured for many months, and she wouldn't give the names of her comrades, and because she was a woman, they didn't want to execute her here, to not seem like anti-feminist. And they moved her to Vienna, where she was executed with an axe. And her comrades killed in Kesariani, where many resistance fighters were killed.
And we can see 3 of them around
Yes.
this monument.
Yeah.
And the date of their assassination and martyrdom.
Yeah, they were all from a youth organization of resistance fighting, which was very active. And also in this spot, some years ago, some local fascists in plain sight killed a queer person activist. And yeah, it's like this street is named after his name, Zakio.
And I can see obviously there's writing here, anarcho-queer revolution, there's the anarchist A sign, there's F Israel, Israel is starving Palestinians. So clearly the street still has very deep significance to both the fascist Nazis that are still in Greece and the anti-fascist revolutionaries, anarchists, communists in the country, and they're still fascists trying to take away the significance of this place to the resistance in Greece.
Τι απάνθρωποι καιροί. Πώς μπορούμε όλοι εμείς να επιβεβαιώνουμε σε κάθε κάψα ότι δεν είμαστε ρομπότ και είμαστε άνθρωποι. Θέλω να τα κάψω όλα, να βάλω φωτιά στην ανθρωπότητα. Σκύλι μόνο. Δεν ξέρω να πετάω γιατί δεν έχω φτερά. Όπως δεν ξέρω να αγαπάω γιατί έχω άνιωθο μπαμπά. Τα τραύματα πολλά, ξεκίνα να ξεχνάς, ξεκίνα να μετράς. Δεν με συγκινεί που μεγαλώσανε στο μιλιταρισμό.
So we're right now at the gates of the Polytechnic University behind us, and we have 1312 ACAB. Oh wow!
AZAB, ALAB, ACAB.
All right. So what is the significance of this site to the anti-fascist struggle in Greece?
So it's important to state that it's 2 main dates. There were many other uprisings that took place or were started here at the Polytechnic University. But the most prominent and well-known and one of the most important dates of resistance in modern Greek history was in November 1973 during the regime of the colonels, CIA-sponsored military junta that ruled Greece from 1967 until 1974. There was a student uprising that began here against the fascist regime and oppression of this CIA-sponsored dictatorship that eventually would spread on a nationwide scale. And in the process of suppressing it, the regime would storm the gates of the Polytechnic and murder 40 people in the process. Most of them students of the university were martyred in the process. And you can see behind the gate here that there is the actual gate that was destroyed. Now, the other important thing that must be incorporated into this story that often isn't, is that in 1944, when the Greek resistance was they were demanding of the Greek resistance to demilitarize and disarm itself, and it refused after it had come to control 3/4 of Greek territory, about, if I remember correctly, with very little war supplies because the British did not want to support them because they did not want the communist force to come to power into Greece. The British would launch an attack
in December 1944, after the country had been deoccupied from the Nazis and killed 50,000 people in the process in the war between the Greek communist resistance and the British. In the process of that, the EPON youth units of the Greek communist resistance would stage a resistance from the Polytechnic, and the British would storm this gate with their tanks.
Oh, wow.
Just the same. And you can find, if you're going to find bullet marks and holes in central Athens, it is probably going to be from the British. And you can say that even in this, I would argue that in this 1 month period of Dekembriana in 1944 until January of 1945, they actually caused more material damage to Athens than the Germans in their Nazi occupation over the course of 1941 to 1944.
And clearly, the administration of the university is still preserving the gate that was stormed by the fascists right there. We can't go in right now because it's a national holiday, the
Yes.
No Day,
Yes.
that somehow is fascist. And
Yes.
we're here to awaken some of this knowledge in people's minds
There's
around the world.
The date of the Polytechnic massacre of 1973 fell on November 17th. Every year in Greece, there is a major commemoration and demonstration and action taken in honor of those martyrs and the resistance to the Greek regime. And a major Marxist-Leninist paramilitary organization, November 17, takes its name from this day. And it should be noted that this group managed to continue its operations past the heyday of left-wing paramilitary action in the imperial core from 1975 until 2001, and were extremely effective with dozens of expropriations, targeted assassination of leaders in the regime, of the Greek regime during the colonel's junta, and enacting retributive assassinations of them. Also of British and American imperialist military and intelligence officials that were stationed in Greece were deeply affected, and many of their leaders were martyred, many of their operatives were martyred, and many are still in the dungeons of the Greek regime prisons, such as Dimitris Kofoundias. There's something I should mention, is that now this university is actually engaged in its complicity with Zionist entity in dual research programs, as are many different universities in Greece, many of them also with a defense research actually. And there must be concrete effective action taken against this.
Well, it's very important that they commemorate this date. It's very important for all of us to find ways to anchor and commemorate such actions and such movements so new generations do not forget and can find inspiration in the struggle of the generations before them.
Absolutely. We take our example in many ways from the Palestinian, from the Yemeni, from the Iranian, from the Venezuelan, from the Cuban, and the resistance of the free peoples of the world that are shining guiding lights to us from the global south, and how we must also wage struggle in destroying imperialism at its blood-soaked roots here in the imperial core.
We're going to go to one more site that's going to be on the positive energy, I think. Let's end on that, and we'll continue when we get there. So on this street, it seems like there's a lot of posters and ripped posters. Tell us about this battle that seems to be happening here.
Yeah, sure. Before I do that, I would just like to note one thing. In regards to the December war that was fought between the Greek communist resistance and against the Greek fascists and their British imperialist sponsors, the British, in their bombing campaigns of Athens, in areas that had the resistance, which was many parts of the city, because they were supported on a mass popular level throughout the country and throughout the city. The British would drop flyers on what they thought to be resistance positions stating that the people had to move within a certain period of time to a certain distance before they started bombing. And when I was reading this, it immediately brought to mind the Holocaust taking place in the Gaza extermination camp, and this kind of tactic that is used by the Zionists to show that they are actually humane in the way that they carry out their Holocaust, by giving people a certain amount of time, so they say, and they try to propagate about themselves, and the interconnections between this and the Greek resistance and Palestinian resistance.
And of course they did the same in Lebanon with these warnings before they commit their crimes. And these posters all across the street, seems like there is a an effort to show support for the resistance and to make the life of these Zionist tourists harder, make them not be able to forget their crimes as they come here to holiday.
Yeah, what I know is from the comrades that launched these like clandestine postering operations through the neighborhoods is that, I mean, the first thing is the idea that there shouldn't just be one neighborhood that is politicized in this way. Not everything can just happen in Exarchia, and we can't fall into the regime's line that there is just one safe zone neighborhood for this that can act in a counterinsurgent way as a pressure valve that people can let off some steam and they go back to where they're from, and then that's it. We thought that, okay, let's bring the material into all of the neighborhoods and to pay tribute to our revolutionary ancestors, to our revolutionary martyrs, to our revolutionary prisoners, and to the resistance. And we have, as we're walking down the street, we see that there is posters paying tribute to Martyr Ahmed Qasir, 1982 operation. I believe he was 17 years old, in destroying a Zionist headquarters in Sur, in Tyre, in South Lebanon. Also Sanam Hedli, in I think it was 1985. Her operation was in Jazin, in the south, at 16 years old. And her operation, as well as Abu Hamza, we saw Samir Kuntar. We saw that there was also posters for political prisoners, Tariq Bazrouk, who is currently in prison for his activism and support for Palestine from the belly of the beast in the U.S. We also
even a poster for Elias Rodriguez, who took out two Zionist, employees of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., and the many leaders of the resistance.
Yes.
Amazing stuff. Thank you very much, Evan, for taking us on this tour. Is there a place for people to continue looking at the amazing activities of resistance like you here in Greece? What website should they go to?
Sure. We are primarily on Instagram until we get suspended again and they try to take everything down. I'm getting sick of using this actually. Every time we go on the account there is one post taken down or another. But we continue to try to use it because it's a way for us to reach the most people. But it's gather_for_Gaza, Instagram for the main page of the collective, and Kinografico, it's with a K, Kinografico, Kinografico, for the film wing, where in the link of the description you can find a lot of material to download these posters and other zines and to support our work and to see what we're doing.
Evan, thank you so much for this amazing tour, Habibi. And I'm Laith Marouf. You're still watching Free Palestine TV. Behind the camera is Rabia Ghannam. I ask you one more time to press the subscribe button on whatever social media platform you're watching this on, and to go to our website, freepalestine.video, to donate so we can continue bringing you this content. And throughout this week, we'll be covering the amazing history of co-solidarity and revolutionary thought in Greece and connecting to Palestine. Until we see you next week, next video, I bid you all a free Palestine and a free Lebanon and a free Greece from imperialism. See you next time.